G'day America, have I got news for you. You see, contrary to popular belief and contrary to what you have been told ever since you were born, you didn't win the war. Nope. You didn't win World War I and you didn't win World War II. You turned up late to both of those twice, and turning up late to the Second World War was particularly heinous because your government knew that millions and millions of people were already dying and had been displaced by Mussolini and Hitler and other various nasties across the world, including Japan. But you didn't want to get involved, did you? Because it was none of your business. And then Pearl Harbor happened, and all of a sudden it was your business. And then you converted your entire economy to a military-industrial complex, got on board with the war effort, and lent a hand at the very end. Thanks for that. It was nice of you to eventually join in a half-assed, last-minute way, and bring some of your industry to it. But having given a bit of an assist to the allies that had already been fighting for many years, England, Australia, New Zealand, you know, the French resistance, everyone who was fighting against the axis of evil of Tojo, Hitler, Mussolini, you know, I'm afraid we even had to team up with Stalin for a bit. Having given the assist at the very end, well, then the American government sat down with the English government and decided they would carve up what remained of the globe into their separate oil interests, because it's always about oil and energy and money. So the US basically took half of the globe, the English took the other half of the globe for their white colonialism, and together they formed their own little military and oil base in the Middle East, kicking the Palestinians out of their homeland to create an artificial little military and oil base, as I said, and they called it Israel after a biblical myth, and they put all the Jewish refugees that no one else wanted in the world right there, and said, now we can keep an eye on all those Arabs, because we don't want the Jewish refugees in our countries. Although there's much, much more room for them in America, we're going to stick them in Palestine, and we're going to call it Israel after something that happened 2 millennia ago, according to people who wrote it down from memory. And ever since, the US and the English have dragged their allies into every oil war and skirmish around the world, and they haven't won anything since. Not a sausage. They lost Vietnam. Oh, that was a conflict, not a war. So technically we didn't lose. You sent so many of your young men as cannon fodder to Vietnam to be slaughtered for your military-industrial complex, even though Eisenhower warned you against the military-industrial complex. You lost Korea. Bush, Blair and John Howard of Australia should have been dragged before The Hague for the weapons of mass destruction farce that slaughtered hundreds of thousands of people in Iraq and displaced them and caused refugee crisis around the world, and, you know, spawned ISIS and Al-Qaeda and those sort of paramilitary operations in response to the colonizers. And now there's another axis of evil that's formed. And guess who's in it this time? Russia, North Korea, China, and Ed Drumpf, aka Donald Trump, in the White House. The oligarchy in Russia have captured the flag and captured the state in America. I live in Ireland. In Ireland, we've been flying the Ukrainian flag for 3 years, and we've taken on tens of thousands of Ukrainian refugees because we feel very strongly about bullies with armaments coming in to occupy under military force, raping, stealing, occupying, displacing, committing genocide, because the English did that for 800 years in the island of Ireland, and the 6 counties in the north that still, unfortunately, belong to the English crown. They'll be a united Ireland one day. But in the meantime, Ireland stands with Ukraine, just as it has always stood with Palestine over Israel, because the illegal apartheid state of Israel, as run by the genocidal maniac Netanyahu, has been perpetrating a Holocaust upon their fellow Semites, the Palestinians, for 80 years, since 1948 basically. And what does Ukraine and Palestine have in common that the US and Putin want to pillage, rape and possess? Oil and mineral reserves. It's in Gaza. The Gaza Strip leads to a huge offshore natural oil deposit. The Palestinians should have the rights to that, but Trump wants it. And Ukraine has massive oil reserves, as does the Arctic Circle. Putin wants that. It's about oil, it's about greed, and all of it is under the guise of religious myth, because if you're subject to brainwashing from birth about one nation under God, then you start to think that your God is on your side. You see, monarchy begins when one corrupt man convinces a fearful and ignorant population that God is on his side and he's the chosen one and he has divine right to rule. And then all the fearful, ignorant people that believe him give everything they own and all of their service to him, his family, and their cronies. And they spend their entire life and all their children's generations in the future end up being socially controlled in the service of the king. Do as you're told, or one day the king might be displeased. Do as you're told. If you're a very good girl, one day you might get invited for a cup of tea at Buckingham Palace. Don't blot your copybook, because you have to stay in good favour with the king. Unchecked capitalism inevitably results in dictatorship and oligarchy. And that's what you have now, America. The American experiment of democracy is well and truly over, because there's no backstop to put Trump in check. You had him out of office for 4 years and you put him back in on purpose, ironically by democratic means, but he's not going to stay there by democratic means. Elon Musk, Trump's fellow oligarch, who is the second richest man in the world, Putin is the richest. Elon Musk and Donald Trump think that God is on their side and they are entitled to the wealth. They don't intend to obey any of the court orders that are telling them that what they are doing is illegal by not allowing the already allocated funds from Congress to flow to their own people and to people abroad. Let's take a second to consider that Elon Musk, the second richest man in the world, has enough money to solve world hunger, to dig wells for clean water for all of his people in South Africa, where he came from. And instead, he's choosing to kill people by denying them the human right of food, water, shelter. And why? Because he's butthurt that no one thinks he's cool. Look at all the money he's got, and he's still not cool, which is exactly the same reason Trump is doing it. Look at all the money he's got, and he's still not cool. And the people that love Trump, they're not going to get to sit down with him and have dinner at Mar-a-Lago unless they buy a ticket, because he doesn't like any of them. No one likes Trump. Trump doesn't like anyone. All they like is money. And they say yes to what they've elected as a king, because they hope that some of the money will fall their way. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. I guess Trump, Netanyahu, Putin, and all who worship them didn't get that memo. We live in interesting times. There's nothing to stop Trump and MAGA and Musk, because when the courts say you must obey and the marshals are called for to be sent to go and imprison the oligarchs in the US, the marshals won't go, because the person who gives the marshals their orders is Trump. So there's only one way that Trump will be removed, and that is by the force of a civilian, well-regulated militia. It's rather ironic that all those brainwashed idiots who stormed the Capitol on January the 6th are so ignorant of history that they thought they were storming the Bastille. What they were doing was destroying democracy and turning the White House into a Tsar's palace. Back at the turn of the 20th century, there was still a Russian royal family, and they had so much money, and the peasants that were their subjects were so hungry and so poor that there was a revolution and they were all shot. But the Russian royal family, the Tsars, they were so degenerate and flagrant in their disposal of their wealth that they used to buy and commission Fabergé eggs. Fabergé eggs are just exactly that, eggs made by the company Fabergé. They're beautiful, jewelled, art for art's sake, eggs made out of crystals, diamonds, mother of pearl, exquisite jewellery, exquisite pieces of art, beyond price. They're now, if you can find one, it's carted around, in plexiglass by security guards at museums and galleries just for people to ogle at. Mark Zuckerberg made a speech, a televised speech the other day to his followers, and he was wearing a $900,000 watch on his little skinny wrist. That is a 21st century version of a Fabergé egg. The oligarchs have captured the flag. America, you never won the war. Either of them. And you're losing the one at home right now. Out here in the real world, in Ireland, in Europe, we've got universal health care, we've got gun control legislation, we've taken in Ukrainian refugees, and we know that Putin is evil and the enemy. Ireland was neutral in the last 2 world wars, but for 30, 40 years we've been in the peaceful trading bloc of the EU. Ireland has a long and proud history of supplying our military to UN peacekeepers to be deployed in war zones and conflict regions wherever the US and the English decide to have their disgusting oil wars. But maybe now we'll be part of the EU army. Interesting times. Interesting times. God bless America. God bless all of us. And turn the other cheek and read a fucking book, for God's sake, America. I'll see you when you got nothing on.